Here's a really good one, super simple, kind of a little hack. Don't sit down during your rest time. All right, my friends, what is going on? Welcome back to the Morning Takeaway. It has been quite a while, a few weeks now, almost a month, and I'm sorry about that. I've been traveling like crazy. It's not an excuse. I could definitely bring my stuff with me, but I did not. So here we are. We're going to make the best of what we got. But, you know, I've been thinking a lot lately about the movement side of things and just like my trainer brain, and it's all kind of stemmed out of a lot of questions that I've been getting in my direct messages on Instagram, majority, but it's talking like more about fat loss. And a couple things that I was just kind of subconsciously thinking about the other day while I was working out is a few tips to help you increase your fat loss or that process while you're in the gym. So I want to run through 5 things today that are kind of little tips, little tricks, and kind of some reasoning behind why they might help you in the gym. I'm always the sweatiest guy in the gym, so take it from me. I do sweat a lot, and not that has it does have something to do with it. You'll hear once we get into it, but also I would love to. Sorry, my mic looks like it's going like way too loud, so I'm going to turn it down a little. Blah blah blah. All right. So, anyways, in the gym, it does have something to do with basically our body core temperature and yada, yada, yada. We'll get into it. But, you know, before we get into there, I just want to let you know I am going to be back on the podcast. I am looking at getting in some like goal setting type stuff, having a few more people on the podcast, and really just keep it going because I love putting it out there and I love just talking about life, whether it's working out, nutrition, or just life in general and life metaphors or whatever that is applicable to your life to make us get the best out of every single day, right? So if I say something that resonates with you today, that you take away from the morning takeaway, the best way you can help me out is by sharing with your friends, sharing with a family member, somebody that you might think will take something else away from that and keep the chain rolling with, you know, sharing to other people. So if we can impact one person a day, we are fulfilled and we're feeling good. So that's enough with my little rant. Let's jump into 5 tips to help you burn fat in the gym. Now I'm going to break it down. I've got 10 things written down right here on my phone, so forgive me for looking down. But there's 10 different things. I'm going to group the last like 5 through 10 all in the same. And I've talked about this before on another podcast just on weight loss, but not specifically in the gym. So here we go. Number 1 is wear more clothes. So for me, I don't know if you've seen me on Instagram, I usually start off with a sweatshirt on. And I'll start with some kind of cardio, like 10 minutes just to get the heart rate going, get the sweat rolling. And basically what that is doing is you're heating your core body temperature up. So what happens when you heat your core body temperature up is naturally your heart is going to beat faster. It is trying to keep up with that cardiovascular system and everything that's going on inside your bodily processes. So what's going to happen when your heart rate goes up? Well, your heart rate is getting taxed, so your cardio is going up, and basically the processes are working they're affecting your metabolism, right? So you have your resting heart rate, your metabolic heart rate. There's so many different things that we can go into, and that's a whole different podcast for another time. But the moral of the story is, hey, you've ever seen the people that start with a pump cover? Well, that's kind of what they're doing. A lot of the times, like nowadays, the pump cover is to get the pump and then take it off. And when you look jacked and feel you got the pump and whatever, but it's also letting the blood get flowing so that we can get into that state and kind of get to burning more calories. Not that is what it is about when it comes to fat loss. Another podcast as well, but just a little tip, and, you know, who cares if you sweat? You're going to the gym to sweat. I'm always the sweatiest guy. I look like I've been in a shower every single time. So don't be embarrassed if you're wearing a lot of clothes and you're sweating like crazy. I think it's awesome. So let's get on to number 2. Here's a really good one. Super simple, kind of a little hack. Don't sit down during your rest time. I always try to make it a goal in my workouts to never sit down. Don't sit down at all. Maybe you have a seated exercise. Okay. Well, when you're resting, then you stand up, right? So also your breathing it's going to be easier to breathe when you're standing up rather than sitting down, because your lung passages are closed or a little bit more compressed when you're sitting down, and then when you stand up, you're lengthening them, easier to breathe, more airflow in the lungs. So aim to never sit down in a workout. The next one kind of goes hand in hand, but number 3 is decrease your rest time. So another way that both of these two can play in hand is utilize supersets, right? So if I have a seating exercise and then I want to go into something standing, well, in order to get me off my seat, then I'm going to put a second exercise in there, bounce back and forth, keep that heart rate up, keep the muscle building going because I'm increasing the reps, the sets, whatever it might be, and that gets into the number 4. I'm getting ahead of myself, but decrease rest time, and when you have a superset, maybe you have to increase that rest time a little bit, but the lower that you can keep that rest time, the better. And I kind of have a rule with myself. There's differences when you are training for power, hypertrophy, strength, whatever it might be, depending on your rest times. But for the most of us, we're really just trying to build lean muscle, burn fat. And for me, my philosophy on rest time is go when you're ready. Don't go when you're like comfortable, but you're like in your brain, you're saying, okay, I could probably go right now, right? So I always try to keep it, if you want to think about it from a perspective, lower than a minute, of course, lower than 45 seconds, probably. I'm usually in that 30 to 45 second rep range and like, boom, let's go, let's hammer it out. So that's number 3. Number 4 is utilizing progressive overload. So like I said, I just kind of hit on it a little bit, but progressive overload, we're going to increase weight, we're going to increase reps, we're going to increase sets, we're going to increase load, whatever it might be, the resistance, in order to keep progressing, right? So it doesn't have to be all of those things at one time, but maybe let's say maybe we take 3 sets of 20 on a barbell row, and we went to progressively overload. Well, we could also just decrease the rest time, right? We're taxing our bodies in a different way. Theoretically, the way I like to program, I like to go from, let's say, 3 sets of 20 that first week at 135 pounds. The next week, we're going to go up to 3 sets of 15 at 155, increasing that weight, but we're decreasing the reps. Sorry, I had to think about that for a second. But that is essentially how progressive overload works. And over time, that is going to be how you progress. That is going to be how you stimulate the body to work in a different way, to build, to basically break down and repair and come back better. When it comes to progressive overload, in my opinion, that is the way of programming. And I hit on that in another podcast as well with like workouts and programming. But that is number 4. Number 5 kind of also has to do with it, but I've looped 5 through 10 into one tip of its own. So now we're talking about movement. Number 5 is movement, right? So we're talking about burning fat in the gym, by the way. Like diet is number 1, end all be all. Like that is what you really want to focus in on if you're really trying to get the fat loss gains or losses for a better term. But 5 is movement in the gym. So I want to loop these 5 through 10 in at high reps, rotational movements, full body workouts, high intensity interval training, compound movements, and single-sided movements. So I talked about this in another podcast, and I'll probably put that at the end of this video for you to click on if you want to watch that all the way through. But your movement needs to revolve around those kind of 5 or 6 things, right? So we're increasing our reps, decreasing our rest time. Rotational movements are great for trimming down that stomach. I'm not a huge fan of like only targeting your abs because I don't really believe that you can actually like lose belly fat just by doing abs. Like that's not a thing. So, but rotational movements are going to incorporate your abdominal muscles in a different way than you're probably used to. We can also get into anti-rotational, yada yada yada, anti-movements. There's a lot of different ways that we can go about it. And all of these things are on my app, by the way, at nickwalkerfitness.app. So if there's ever something that you need help with, like, it's all programmed and laid out for you on my app. Full body workouts are going to be your best bang for your buck as far as getting the heart rate up, keeping, trying to train your metabolism in a way. High intensity, in my opinion, that's the best, most effective way of cardio for burning fat. Number 9, compound movements for overall body development. You want to utilize compound movements. So that's generally anything with a barbell, hex bar, something that is, using your entire body, barbell row, back squat, deadlift, bench press, overhead press, all your kind of functional movements. So then our last one, single-sided movements. Sorry if I'm getting a little long-winded here, but single-sided movements, basically, that is also going to incorporate our core more than anything else, right? So we're teaching our body to work in one way on one side. Well, what happens on the other side? It's having to try to stabilize somehow so you don't become weak on that side, right? So your core is going to be involved with anything, and that's essentially working towards your fat loss gains, especially with the programming that you go with the high reps, low rest, those along those lines. But I just wanted to bring you a few tips to help you burn fat in the gym. And because I've been getting a lot of questions and it's hard to kind of get back to every message. But those are my tips. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. I'm happy to respond. I'm going to end right here with our generating a random question. So how do you usually react if you receive bad service? Bad service. All right, so let's say we're in a restaurant. I get really bad service. I am the first person to be the nicest person ever for the waiter. If I get a steak and I order it medium rare and it is super well done, like I can barely eat it, I'm not going to say anything. I am way too nice when it comes to that kind of stuff. I don't ever really get pushy or I try to have empathy for the waiters or the bad service, whatever it may be. I'm not really one to speak out and get crazy into somebody else's face because you never know what somebody's going through. You never know what is on their plate maybe that day. Maybe they're just not on their A game, right? So I think that's how I react pretty consistently, but that's me. So anyways, there's a few tips and a little about me on bad service. But if you got anything for me, don't ever hesitate. Message me, comments, whatever, and I'm always happy to get back to you. So like I said, if you took something away, please share with a friend, family member, whoever it might be, if you took something away. And with that said, have an awesome freaking day, and don't forget to smile.